Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2019 and the second part of this experiment where we're seeing what would happen if the Premier League and best teams in the Champions League were all put under a transfer embargo until the year 2050. Now when we left off last time we'd gone 5 years into the future. You can see Liverpool had won 4 of 5 Premier League titles, City getting one, but the transfer spending across all of the big leagues really quite far down in terms of cash. These clubs must be turning enormous profits right now. And Manchester United had actually been winning a couple of Champions Leagues as well. So everything kind of a little bit unusual in their results, I would say. But we're not quite at the point where there are real surprises. The only real progression has been Aston Villa and West Brom getting into the European places, Blackburn just behind them, Chelsea finishing down in 9th, Leicester coming towards the bottom of the table. So some things are beginning to change. Now what we're going to try and do today is go 5 more years into the future. Rather than skip a little bit at a time, we're just going to jump straight 5 years ahead. So today might be a slightly shorter video. But if we do that, we will have gone 10 years ahead in total, which will mean a lot of the players you can see here will be getting to the end of their career. They might be retiring. They're probably going to start leaving their clubs. And we should start to see the impact of the finances of other teams around Europe taking hold and getting them to the top of their domestic leagues and challenging for the Champions League. We're also going to look at the careers of the players like Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, possibly Mbappe as well, those sort of players, to see where they have ended up and where their career went 5 years into the future. I think the likes of Ronaldo and Messi may already have moved clubs, to be fair. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, he is still at Juventus, 38 years old though. He's not going to be around for much longer. Still having a cracking time though over in Juventus. Messi is a bit younger than Ronaldo and he's still at Barcelona. And this is the thing, the clubs are under embargo. They have no reason to let these players go, so they just aren't going to leave the clubs. And no other team has the financial firepower to be able to sign them. You can see with Neymar still at PSG at this point, having a sensational time there. And then if we just look at Mbappe as well, we can see he's still at PSG. So there's absolutely no surprise with that, to be fair. You would expect that in this save. But we will have another look at the end of the episode. We'll also take a look at the Europa League, which I forgot to look at last time. So let's go 5 years ahead and see what the world is looking like. Before we do that, hit that like button if you're enjoying this experiment. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And now let's see how the world looks. Well, we are now 5 years into the future, and looking at the next season of the Premier League, you can see United have finally won a Premier League title here, ahead of Manchester City by 2 points. Liverpool and Chelsea recovering from mid-table there to come into the Champions League places, and West Brom, Blackburn and Villa dropping a bit further down the table. So if anything, the league has gone back to kind of how you would more expect it to be. And Leicester getting relegated as well this season, only 1 point off Fulham, but those points totals for relegation extremely low. No other real big surprises in there, except that you can see a lot of the teams outside the top 6 are now not original Premier League teams. I mean, there's Southampton, Brighton, Watford, Everton, Wolves and Fulham. They're the only teams in there that are still original Premier League teams. Now going to the next season, United win the title again by 14 points. We'll take a look at their wonder kids at the minute, because they must have some to be winning the league like this. Aston Villa jumping up to 5th place. Liverpool now starting to fall back. We'll have a look at their team as well, because they're beginning a little bit of a slide. Spurs have dropped down to 8th as well. Wolves going down alongside Brighton and Fulham. The next year, City have managed to take the title by 3 goals over Manchester United. Liverpool and Arsenal top 4. Blackburn up in 5th. Remember, they've got a tycoon owner. You will expect them to start challenging for this title soon. Chelsea in 6th. Other teams towards the bottom, I mean, Spurs have dropped down quite a bit. But generally, they're still in the right kind of places, the big teams. No surprise in relegations there. The following year, Liverpool still taking the title. They've come back after looking like they were falling apart. United have dropped down a little bit, very tight at the top. 5 points between 1st and 5th, with Blackburn 2 points off the title. So their push really paying dividends. Leeds in 6th and Arsenal in 7th. Chelsea down in 10th now, back in mid-table. Watford getting relegated. And in the most recent season, Arsenal have won the league here. 13 points clear as well. They've done that by quite a margin, and Middlesbrough is still in the top 4, but Blackburn dropping down, Liverpool dropping down, Chelsea dropping down, and Everton finishing 13th, but still qualifying for Europe, which is probably through the domestic competitions, I would suggest. Well, let's just have a look at Manchester United, because they should be relying on players that they had in their team. Now, they benefit from having the likes of Rashford, Dalot and Martial, who are quite young, but then you've got players like Martin Crowther here, who's 23, worth £57 million. He's a regen, come through their club. Ben Beachy, he's another regen worth over 50 million. So they're absolutely brilliant training facilities, youth scouting, youth recruitment, all that kind of stuff, really helping them, because these are all new players. You've still got the likes of Pogba, Lukaku, De Gea in there as well. So there's still some big names, but you can see that it's pretty much all overturned at this point. But it's still a pretty good team, and their wonder kids have been very good. Liverpool, who did have a late push for the title, they've got a lot of young, good players. Even Alisson in there, still doing well, worth over 30 million. But then some good young regens coming into the team as well. But they've still got like a Van Dijk in there. Salah is still there, still playing for them, I think, quite regularly, 33 games, and still got good average ratings as well, which is very important. Chelsea have really struggled, which is bad news for them, given that they are about to have a transfer embargo put on them. But you can see Alex Obi, their best player, is a regen, 25-year-old Englishman. The England team looks pretty good at this point. We might want to have a quick look at that at the end of this. You can see Callum Hudson-Odoi, obviously a big name player, Pulisic in there as well. But after that, the team starts to get a little bit thin on the ground. They're still relying on N'Golo Kante down here. And he's got quite a bit older at this point. So the Premier League looking a little bit interesting. Looking at the transfer history over the last few years. So we left off top signing 34 million. That's not changing too much. Blackburn splashing the cash. West Brom in there as well. Fred leaving Man United for China. You can see the next year the money goes up slightly again. Norwich spending a bit down here, but Aston Villa with a bit of cash going out the door. Still Blackburn pumping the money, signing Will Hughes from Watford. The next year, not very much money that year again. It's only the same names popping up at the top of this spending. Blackburn obviously always going to be there now with a tycoon in charge. And they picked up another couple of players here, including one from Milan. And Ben Chilwell, Declan Rice, good young English players in there. So it's still not that much money. Oh, there we go. Now the money has jumped. It's gone up. I think they got Champions League football, Blackburn, at this point. And they spent £82 million on Marius Stan from Hertha Berlin. He is a brilliant player. Look at that. That is sensational, those stats. 24 league goals in 37 games. That's a pretty good return on this regen. He's been a consistent scorer everywhere he's been. So they've definitely benefited from that. A couple of other good players in there. George Emery, Militao. Very good wonder kids in the game, paying dividends for Blackburn at this point, and they will go on to start to dominate the league. You can tell that. There's a lot more money being spent. Middlesbrough pumping out the cash. Aston Villa doing the same. So interesting to see that, really. But you can see that the league's title's still sitting with the big old clubs. That might change next episode, or it definitely will change next episode, because Middlesbrough, Blackburn, those sort of teams are going to be pushing at that title. Now, looking at the Spanish La Liga, you can see it's still Real Madrid and Barcelona taking every single one of these. If we just jump back to 23-24, you can see Barca took it. No change in the top three. Villarreal broke into the top three here. Not too far off the title either. Quite tight at the top. And then Real Madrid taking it by a good way. These top three still in charge of this league. Although Barcelona finishing fourth in this season, they look like they might be struggling a little bit. And they don't have a big squad here. They don't have many big name players left either. They still got Arthur, Ruiz, Dembele there. Abel Ruiz, is he a regen? No, he is from their academy. Gerard Gomez in there. Frankie de Jong obviously still there as well. He's 31 now, getting on a little bit. But they've still got a decent core of a team, but their youth team not quite doing the job for them. Whereas Real Madrid still have quite a decent amount of strength in depth, which is coming from these sort of regens here, I think. Obviously, Rodrigo's not a regen. Victor is, though, as a striker. Damian Navarro is. Joshua Alvarez. They've got a lot of very good regens coming to the team to back up the core players who are still around at this point. But I think a couple of years from now, those players are going to be gone and they are going to start to struggle. Now, looking at the Bundesliga, we made the prediction that Leipzig would start to do well. That's how it's panned out. Just looking at this league table, you can see they immediately came and took the title after where we left off before. Bayern Munich dropping to 5th. They took the title again, Leipzig, and again. Bayer Leverkusen managed to come and take it. They're not under embargo, so they've done a bit of good spending to dislodge the top teams. But Bayern have fallen from grace very quickly in Germany. And you can see that Leipzig dominating the spending. Bayer just behind them. Borussia Mönchengladbach also putting the cash out there, but nothing on Leipzig. Although they're starting to catch up here. I just want to have a quick look and see if they got a new owner came in. They did get somebody come in and take over the club, but I don't know if that's going to have changed necessarily how much money they're spending. But they've got a very good team now, picking up those good players. And this is what will happen. We'll get new dominant teams start to appear, and they will sign the best players. Now, looking at Serie A, you can see this is getting a bit more varied. Roma, Milan and Napoli winning recently. Juventus now dropped down to 6th place. They don't have Ronaldo anymore. And they've got very little strength in depth. They've got a top 6 or 7 and then nothing underneath that. I don't know if Juventus are famous for developing players from their academy. I'm struggling to think of many that actually came from the academy. They sign good young players, but I don't think they develop them from their own resources. But you can see Napoli doing well. They're not under... Well, Napoli should be under embargo, and they are, but they're still winning the title. That's not bad. Looking at their senior squad, again, the strength and depth of the squads in Italy look really poor. And I don't think these teams have the best youth facilities, and this is really going to start to impact them. AC Milan, not under embargo. I expect them to become a really big team in Europe. I'm surprised they're not winning the league at this point. Lazio, also not under embargo. But Roma are, who finished 4th. So this is going to be an interesting one. I think it'll be a fight between Napoli and Milan for the Serie A title going forward. In League, PSG still absolutely cleaning up here. I think this will continue for a while with the likes of Mbappe still at the team. Although Bordeaux closing the gap a little bit. They're not too far off them now. They nearly missed out here with Marseille not far behind. And looking at their team, still got very good strength and depth. They've still got some very good young players in their team, led by Mbappe. So PSG are going to be around for a little while. In the Eredivisie, who's been winning this one recently? PSV have been the dominant team. I don't think they're under embargo. They are under embargo, and that's finally been broken by Feyenoord coming and winning the title. I don't know if they are also under embargo. They're not. So you would expect Feyenoord to become the dominant team there. Portugal, Porto still winning even though they're under embargo. I don't know if there's many other teams we want to have a quick look at here. We've got the Ladbrokes Premiership. If we have a quick look at this, then we can see that in the league table, Rangers are the dominant team. They are not under embargo, and they are destroying this league now, winning every single title. And Celtic, struggling a little bit. They're still in the top 6 every year, though, which is good for them. Bearing in mind, they are going to struggle eventually, but they've got decent young players still in their team worth a bit of cash as well. You would expect that to change in not too long. So let's have a look at the Champions League now and see who's been winning this. I think Leipzig are going to be the dominant team. But you can see Borussia Mönchengladbach have won one recently. Looking at the past winner screen, beating the Manchester clubs 3 times in a row. After City won it this year, Juventus beat City before that. So City still reaching the finals, but Leipzig are the dominant team in world football. And you can see why. Look at the value in that side. That is very special. They've got De Ligt at the club as well. So Leipzig really pushing. Borussia Mönchengladbach, they've got a decent team, not quite as strong as Leipzig's in terms of the value of it. Manchester City, they've still got a good value team. They do have a lot of very young players in their existing squad at the moment, and they will carry them through with a few extra players coming through because they've got excellent facilities, Manchester City. If we drop down to the Europa League and the past winners here, you can see PSG winning this, Bayern, Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen won it, Atletico Madrid, then Bordeaux won it. We've seen them do well in France, and Blackburn have won it, their first major European honour for possibly ever, actually, if we have a quick look at their competition history. Their first Europa League. They have also won the European Super Cup now. but that is the only competitions they've won since the Premier League in 1995. So I think they're going to become a dominant team as well. They've got Jadon Sancho at the club at the minute, but that's a pretty interesting kind of run of teams. We're going to start to see this get a little bit more kind of messed up with random teams coming in today. You can see Real Sociedad in there at the moment, but I think that will get more and more unusual as this runs forward. Although if you look at the past of it, it's not that unusual, to be fair. You've got a lot of these clubs down here. So I think that could be it for this part of this experiment. I think next time what I'm going to do is go right to the end of the embargo, so the teams will be totally overcome. We'll see who the new dominant players are, and then there'll be one more part after this where we do have a look at what has happened after the embargo has ended. Have the big clubs managed to come back and take their place back at the top of the league? But that will be it for today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, drop a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here. But until next time, see ya.